Of like, this is an appropriate time to have New Year's resolutions, and we can talk about what we want our family to look like in this next year and what goals we have, what we want to work on. So, we have 3 short videos, and then, actually there was one slide I think before the videos, now that I'm thinking about it. Was there one slide? One more. Okay, this was something that I wanted to mention, but it was too much for the kids. So there's the Ecclesia Domestica. The Second Vatican Council used an ancient expression, and it calls our families the domestic church, because we are teaching our kids by word and example. And we're the first ones to show kids anything about their faith, right? And they say we should encourage them in the vocation which is proper to each child, fostering with special care any religious vocation. The Christian home is the place where children receive the first proclamation of the faith. For this reason, the family home is rightly called the domestic church. So when we were talking about the Holy Family and then the family of God, kind of the third part of the definition is that our family is the domestic church. Like, we are teaching our kids. We're the first teachers. And really, the main, at least before they become teenagers and start listening to their friends, we're the ones that are supposed to be building the foundations for them to live, a moral and virtuous life. So with that said, we're going to watch 3 short videos that are going to talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions, and then we'll get into some other stuff, if the technology works. Okay, so this is a priest from Australia.
And you are...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Watching Q&A, question and answer for the Catholic leader. Somewhere in our life, every one of us wants to turn over a new leaf. It's not that my life or yours is a complete shambles, but there is that sense that somewhere, somehow, my life, your life, needs to be renewed. We need to turn over the new leaf. And that's what finds expression in things like New Year's resolutions. Now, I've made resolutions in the past: get more exercise, lose some weight, eat less, drink less, all that kind of stuff. But it very often hasn't come to much at all, or it hasn't lasted terribly long. Halfway through January, it's kind of evaporated. New Year's resolutions are good things, but one of the difficulties, I think, at times with them is that we try and do too much. They're too big, the resolutions, and you can sustain them for a couple of weeks or perhaps for a month, but they're hard to sustain right through life. So the question is, how can I or you make resolutions that are going to work and not just evaporate after 2 or 3 weeks? The secret, I think, is to keep our resolutions small and simple and realistic. And what does that mean? In terms of my life, small, simple and realistic would mean, first of all, at the point of prayer, not to say that I'm going to pray for 3 hours every day. That's not going to happen. But what is something that I can do, some small and simple thing that I can do to make me more conscious of God as I rush through my busy day? Pools of silence through the day. Is it just beginning of the day, middle of the day, the end of the day? Quite apart from all the other public stuff I have to do. Just little moments of contemplation, pools of silence. It doesn't have to last for long. But that sort of thing can send out ripples through the whole day. So at the point of prayer, what's the small and simple resolution that you can make for the new year? The other thing is action, because prayer and action are the 2 pillars upon which the Christian life stands. In other words, not trying to do stuff that's too big, too difficult, and that's not going to last. What's some little act of kindness, beyond the normal run of things? Some little act of kindness that you or I can do each day to enrich the lives of others and enrich my own life at the same time. So what I would recommend to you as we look to 2015 is that you focus on prayer and action, focus on small, simple, realistic. How can you make a resolution that will be sustainable at the point of your prayer life and at the point of giving yourself to others. Go for it.
Bueno, vamos a escribir la carta a los Reyes Magos. ¿Sabéis ya lo que vais a pedir?
Sí. Este año me he portado muy bien. Un juego. Una guitarra. Una Wii. Esto y esto. Un unicornio que huele punta con punta.
Estas las dejo aquí para mandárselas a los Reyes. Y ahora vais a escribir otra carta. Una carta a vuestros papás. ¿Qué les pediríais a vuestros papás esta Navidad?
¿Algo más? Sí.
Vuestras hijas han escrito una carta a los Reyes Magos y esta para vosotros.
Queridos papás,
quiero que estés más tiempo conmigo, que hagamos más experimentos en casa.
me gustaría que nos hagáis un poco más de caso. Me gustaría que cenarais más con nosotros. Quiero que me hagáis cosquillas y que les leamos un cuento.
Quiero que estemos un día juntos.
No puedo.
Quiero jugar, mamá. Que juegues conmigo, vaqueros.
¿Quieres jugar más al fútbol conmigo?
¿Os sorprende que os pidan esto para Navidad?
Pues no, la verdad es que no nos sorprende. A mí no.
Tienen demasiados juguetes siempre.
El sentimiento de tratar de sustituir, pues llenarles ese pequeño vacío con un juguete que les...
Pasar todo el tiempo que tenemos al máximo con nuestros hijos.
Pensar que tú quieres darles todo lo mejor y lo mejor eres tú.
Si lo está escribiendo es porque lo necesita, ¿no?
Si solo pudieras enviar una de las dos cartas, ¿cuál enviarías? ¿La de los Reyes Magos o la de papá y mamá?
Uy, es una pregunta muy difícil. La de mamá. La de mis padres, papá y mamá.
I cry every time. Okay, so we can go back to the slideshow. There was one more video that we couldn't get to work, but I think the link is somewhere in the worksheet if you want to look at it at home. Yeah. Okay, so I was reading a lot about how we should make up New Year's resolutions and what we should consider, and there were some really good lists going around. They were talking about one resolution could be giving of your time, talent, skills, interests, personality, finances. That's kind of an easy one, right? Like, I will donate this much money, or I want to maybe try and make it out to, one of the projects we have here at the homeless shelter, or, but it also mentions a lot of things like your characteristics and your personality traits that you want to work on. So something like having more initiative or promptness or humility, or getting rid of fear or pride, jealousy, maybe trying to have more joy or kindness, maybe patience with your kids. I really need that. Specific things like I want to become closer to this family, or I want to minister in this area in St. Lawrence. Using our resources, not just money, but maybe spending time with each of your kids, kind of like the IKEA commercial said. Maybe making a point. I know for a while my husband and I were dividing up swim team and soccer, and I missed almost a whole year of soccer games with my son because I kept doing swim team. And it was like, okay, we need to make a conscious effort that we're gonna alternate so we can each make sure to see each of the kids. Also, some spiritual goals, like maybe having some personal devotion time in the mornings, or maybe committing to reading a certain scripture throughout the year, certain books that you can read, or maybe praying for certain people or certain causes. So we're going to talk today about what commitments you want to make this year, and they don't have to get too personal. I mean, I always do personal things during Family Faith, but we don't have to get too personal. You can go to the next slide. So last year, this was going around on Twitter. This supposedly was Pope Francis's ideas of what his New Year's resolutions was. I did a little Snopes, like I did a little trying to see what the real story was. And it's not too far off of what he said. He actually gave a talk to the people that work at the Vatican, all the employees, and he suggested these as acts during Advent. They weren't actually New Year's resolutions, but what they could work on during Advent. And I'm going to read you what they actually were, and you'll see some of them. I don't know where they get finish your meals. Maybe, I don't know. Some of them are like, I don't know how they skewed that. But he said, these were his words: be careful how you speak and purify your tongue of offensive words. So, not gossiping, not talking about other people. Take care of your family life, giving your children not just money, but time, attention, and love. And that was kind of like the IKEA commercial. Taking care of our family first and making sure that our relationships within siblings, parents, and then parents and our children. But also taking care of your relationships with others, transforming your faith into life and your words into good works, especially on behalf of the needy. Obviously, that's a huge message of the Pope right now. Making sure that Christmas is about Jesus and not shopping. So he's telling this to his employees. Taking care of our brothers and sisters who are weak, elderly, sick, hungry, homeless, strangers. We will be judged by the treatment we give them. Watch out for anger, laziness, pointing fingers at others, and complaining. When I read this to my kids, I was like, this is what we should have for our New Year's resolution. I mean, anger, laziness, blaming each other, and complaining are huge in my house. So, healing wounds with forgiveness. He actually says, heal wounds with the oil of forgiveness, which just sounds prettier. And then he said, be careful of envy, lust, hatred. They destroy your inner peace and inner silence, and they transform us into destroyed people, which I thought it's so true. I mean, a lot of times when I read Facebook or comments after an article and you hear all this hatred, I think that someone who's filled with that much hatred, they're just getting eaten up inside, like they're just destroying themselves by spewing that out all the time. But if we fill ourselves with love, you're rising up and you're becoming a better person. So never read the comments. Take care of your spiritual life and relationship with God. And that's, he said that's everything you should be focusing on, is taking care of your spiritual life and your relationship with God and your relationship with your family. And then the last one he said was look after your work. Oh, this is, okay, so he's talking to his employees. He said, look after your work and do it with enthusiasm, with humility, and with passion, and in a spirit that knows how to thank the Lord. I think that kind of ties in what we were talking about this morning, because we were talking about teaching our kids responsibility and discipline, and they were saying how Joseph was a good example. He kind of had Jesus as an apprentice, and he was showing them hard work. And I think that whenever we do our work, even if it's just whatever I do all the time, like washing dishes, whatever, I think that when I'm complaining all the time, I heard my daughter say the other day, I don't want to have kids because they're too messy and it would be too hard. And I know she's saying that because I have complained so much about my house and my kids being messy. But what is the example that I'm setting for? I was like, okay, Maya, we need to have a talk. Like, okay, it's mommy's just having a bad day. And I was trying to explain it to her, but it's true. If that's the role, if that's what I'm showing her, that I hate making these lunches and you guys are so messy and why did you leave this out? It's like I'm showing her that I hate being a mom, which I don't hate being a mom. I just hate cleaning sometimes. So it's like, really have to watch the way that we're portraying this, because we're the example. So if we're always complaining, or like my husband was complaining how he had to go to work all the time, this was a while ago, and Ricky goes, I'm never going to go to work. And we were like, oh, shoot. Like, okay, no, it's not bad to go to work, you know, and we're just trying to explain. It's like this balance where we need to start, and it's not even just keeping the complaints to ourselves. It's like we should just be more thankful. And not complaining so much, even in our heads, because even if you're just complaining in your head, you're still kind of poisoning. Okay, you can go to the next slide. This was something I found. I'm not going to read it out loud, but if you want to skim it, I was looking for ideas for New Year's resolutions, because there's like the top 5 that everyone always is like, lose weight and get richer, or, you know, take care of my finances and have a better house. And they're like always the ones that everyone breaks by December or by January 2nd. So these were some examples of, like going to confession, or being more humble, or learning to love more, or loving yourself instead of always wanting to lose weight and do this, kind of just taking care of yourself. So these were some examples, and we can go one more. Okay, and then this was one more example of how one Catholic magazine had this. They said instead of writing resolutions, you can just fill in the blanks. So they had one virtue I'd like to grow in. It could be one of the virtues we talked about today, or another one like patience. One sin I'd like to eliminate, like I think really complaining, I'm going to work on this year. One book of scripture I'd like to read through. One spiritual book I'd like to read. One prayer I would like to learn. One way to improve my sacramental life. One saint I'd like to get to know better. So what we're going to do for this first part is in your packets, on your pages, I wrote out some of these. I'm trying to find the page here. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, there are some reflection and discussion questions, so you don't have to reveal your most personal New Year's resolution, but I really like the way that parents talk to each other and give each other good ideas of how they can overcome certain challenges and what your thoughts are for the new year, and then we'll talk about it together. So if you'd like to discuss, you don't have to write anything down. If you just want to discuss, that's fine.